Hey guys, this is Smithy. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is a very special one. We're going to do our custom palette for fall. Fall is my favorite season and I could not wait more to film this video. I have a ton of shades in front of me which I handpicked from several of the palettes that are there in my collection, and I wanted to create my own custom beautiful fall palette. I love to wear jewel tones. I love shimmery sparkly multi-chrome shades. So if you're ready to see how my custom fall palette looks, then please keep on watching. Okay, now for the size reference, I feel like Glam Light's this size of packaging seems very nice. To me, it comes with 15 shades. And I think that's quite a bit of shades to choose from to create a variety of looks. Not that I'm using these shades to create my custom palette, but I just wanted to show you a size reference of how many shades would I be using. And I have kept 15 shades in my mind. So let's begin. The first shade, I'm going to swatch on the back of my hand. I'm going to give you a close-up of all the swatches, how everything looks. Let's do that right now. You can see how beautiful these shades are, how beautifully it swatches. So if you're interested to see which shades did I pick from what all palettes, then please keep on watching. Now let's begin with our first shade. The first shade I picked from the Gourmand Girls Ethereal palette, and I feel like this shade is so spectacular and so versatile in so many different ways. And my first shade is the shade Radiance from this palette. So let's watch that. It looks definitely like an orange, but it has a lot of pink in it and a green in it. It's truly a spectacular shade depending on what shade you're putting underneath it. You can see a lot of green. I personally see a lot of pink. Can you see that? That's the pink that I see, but it has a lot of orange too. It is stunning shade, absolute stunning shade. It looks different under a green base, under a orange base, under a pink base, under a blue base. It just looks different in so many different shade levels. I cannot, I had to put this as my first shade. And this by itself gives such a beautiful glossy look on the eyes. It's truly spectacular. I'm also going to do two looks using the shades that I'm talking about today so that you can see the vibe that I'm going for. So let's move on to the second shade. The second shade that I picked is from the Primal palette. And this is from Blend Bunny Cosmetics, and I had to include a green, and the perfect green undertone for my skin tone I feel is camouflage. So I definitely wanted to pick this too. If you do not have this Primal palette, there's a shade in the Cool Summer palette from It's Belle Cosmetics too. That is also very similar to that. It's just that I prefer the Blend Bunny Cosmetics matte a little bit more, and I prefer the shimmers in the It's Belle Cosmetics palettes. But this is how it looks. Those two shades by itself can be a look by itself, It's so pretty. Now let's move on to the third shade. The third shade that I picked is from my Sugar Drizzle palette, the Man I Love Frogs palette, the MILF palette. And this is another multi-chrome shade that I picked. And this is another green. Now I know what you're thinking, Smithy, you're not even a green person, but why are you picking all the greens? This green is truly spectacular. Can you see that? It is that grassy green with that blue and oh, it's so smooth. It's so dimensional on the eyes that I cannot even say. When I'm swatching it, I see a lot of blue and green together. I don't know if you guys can see it, but you see a strong green. Can you see that? And I see that blue. It is so pretty, guys. So pretty. Some brand sign me up, okay? I want to create a palette of my dreams. Oh my God. It'll be jewel tone heaven. I cannot wait for that. So these are the greens that I picked for this palette, green, pink, whatever. You can see so many shifts in the way it can go. It's truly spectacular. If you want 5 looks using this custom palette, do leave it down in the comment section below. But now let's move on to the fourth shade. For that, I'm using my ABH Norvina 5 palette because I definitely want some purples, you know that. But right now, we're going to use a few purpley brownie tones because these tones are so unique. It might not even feel like that, but it's so unique. So right now I'm going to swatch this shade, which is C5 from this palette. And it is definitely like a deep rusty brown shade, but with a lot of purple and burgundy in it, and that will anchor the other shades so well. Look at that. The, can't I am so excited. That can be look by itself, isn't it? Oh my goodness. So pretty, so pretty. Let's move on to the fifth shade. Can you feel my excitement? Because I cannot contain. Okay, the fifth shade in the palette is from Luxie Beauty, and it is my single shadow, and this is called Social Butterfly. And I definitely wanted to include this shadow. Even though it's like that less expensive, but the shine, the dimension that you get is truly spectacular. I love to wear this with like a bronzer and like a deepening brown shade in the outer corners, and this by itself. It is so pretty. Let me swatch this. This with that brown will be so spectacular. And this is how it looks. Can you see that? Is it copper? Is it gold? Is it rose gold? It's a beautiful neutral tone that we all need in our life. And that's my first row swatched for you guys. Let's keep on going and see how much we can fit in this hand. But I'm so excited. Let's move on to the next shade. The next shade is also from my ABH Norvina 5 palette. And when I think of fall, I definitely think of like smoky eye looks. And for that, I really needed like a chocolatey brown shade, but with like a hint again of burgundy purple in it. So I want to swatch this shade, which is B5. Can you see that? It definitely has that chocolatey tone, but with like that rusty, purpley. It's so yummy. I want to swatch that. And these are so smooth. Like, look at that. Isn't that the chocolatey shimmer of your dreams or what? It looks more like a cream shadow, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. Like when I'm going for that deep chocolatey brown smoky eye, which I love to wear in the fall, this is exactly what I want. Like, look at that. Stop. Okay, let's move on to the next shadow. Now I wanted a little bit of like a neutral cool tone shade to go with these like shimmers and the color story that we are going for. So I thought that the perfect shimmer shade like for in the neutral family would be this, which is Wondrous Nights from Sydney Grace. I absolutely love this shade. Like, it's just absolutely stunning. So let me swatch that. This paired up with so many shades can like take it in another dimension altogether. So let's watch that. This with a red. It's so pretty. Look at that. That's such a beautiful cool tone neutral. It is stunning. Absolutely stunning. Sydney Grace shadows are like to another level. It's so pretty, so beautiful. I could have included like so many more shadows from Sydney Grace. You have no idea. Now, since I said that shade, the neutral shade is going to look so beautifully with a red, and I feel like red is such a beautiful fall shade. So I wanted to include a red, and this is from my It's Belle Cosmetics Break the Rules palette, and I wanted to include this shade, which is called Rebel. It's such a beautiful, like true red shimmer shade, and it's so unique and so opaque. It's so beautiful. So let's watch that. Look at that, so pretty. So that's Rebel from It's Belle Break the Rules palette. So pretty. Even that red with that first shade, oh my God. And just to deepen out with that shade, oh my goodness. So pretty. Okay, now let's move on to a few matte shades that is so necessary for our palette. The next shade that I wanted to include is the shade Lethal, and this is like our deep maroon shade that will like anchor all the red, pinky, like all cool tone rosy shades together. I love this shade, like absolute favorite shade of mine from this palette. So I had to include this. Look at that. So that's Lethal. The next shade that we're going to talk about is another shade from the MILF palette, and this is Frog Life. Oh my god, this is my perfect purple shade for like Halloween. So pretty. So let me swatch that. Beautiful multi-chrome duochrome shade, love it. Like, look at that. Let's move on. The next shade of the palette is from my Melt Amor Mariposa palette, and I knew that I have to get this shade, which is Nube. It's a beautiful deep purple shade. Again, I cannot do without purples, guys, so I definitely need that in my palette for sure. So let's watch that, and that with that MILF shade and also with that Frog Life shade will be so pretty. Look at that. So beautiful. Now we definitely need a crease shade, and I have the perfect crease shade for putting all these deepening shades together, and that is from my Dominique Cosmetics Latte palette, and I chose the shade Pumpkin Spice because oranges and purple look so good together, even the greens. So I definitely wanted like an orange crease shade. Look at that. That's just perfect. Like, so beautiful. It's so pretty. Okay, now to go perfectly with that like purples and the blues coming forward, I definitely wanted like a purple to blue shifting duochrome shade, and I think this is perfect for that. This is Blueberry Pop from my Cool Summer palette from It's Belle Cosmetics. So let me swatch this. You see a lot of blue, I see a lot of purple. So let me swatch this. Oh my god, this is so pretty. Can you see that purple again? Or can you only see that blue? I'll definitely give you like a close-up of all these shades in the outside lighting too, so that you can see it all in its glory. Now let's move on to the next shade. I'm so excited. Okay, the next perfect cool tone blue purple shade, like the deepening out shade, I think is from Giant Wolf's palette, and the shade is called Cosmos. Like such a pretty grounded, like a cool tone blue shade. I love this shade. So let's watch that. Look at that. Now last, certainly not the least, I wanted like a deep magenta purpley shade, and I think this is perfect for that. And this is the shade Exotic from my Primal palette. So let's watch that. I do not leave a moment to use this shade if I'm using the palette. Seriously. It's that pretty. And that is the shade Exotic from the Primal palette. And this is the entire palette swatched for you guys. Let me know how beautiful this is. Like, yes, if you make this palette, I will buy it in a second. Like, I love these tones. And you can go to places with these shades. Like, I love, absolutely love them. Now let me show you in the outside lighting how all these shades perform, and in the sunlight as well as like without the sunlight, so that you can see all the shifts and the sparkle and the dimension. So pretty. And now without further ado, let's move on to the two looks. Okay, so for the first eye look, I'm going to start off with the shade Pumpkin Spice, and that is going to be like our transitioning shade. So I'm going to start off with that, and I'm mainly going to concentrate that on the inner third of my eyelid. I'm also going to take that on my lower lash line just to blow out everything. And then I'm going to dip into my Melt Cosmetics palette, and I'm going to go with this shade, which is Nube. It's a beautiful purple shade. I'm going to concentrate that there in the outer corners. I'm first going to stamp it and then do circular motions so that it's blended. And I'm also going to concentrate that on the extreme outer corners of the lower lash line, just like that. Now I'm going to take the shade which is Exotic from the Primal palette, and it is this shade. Beautiful shade, like beautiful shade. And I'm going to concentrate that on the edges of Ube and where it melts to that pumpkin spice shade. And I'm also going to take the same shade right here at the edges of the shade Ube on the center of my eyelid, just like that. Now I'm going to take like a tight definer brush. Got it. I'm going to take the shade Exotic and press that on my lower lash line, just like that. I'm also going to take the shade Lethal right on top of it on my lower lash line, just to give a little more of that burgundy effect. And I'm also going to concentrate that right here. There's a very subtle difference, but it's really pretty. Now if you want, I mean, you absolutely do not need to, but if you want like if you want to deepen up the outer corners a tiny little bit more, I'm going to dip into this shade which is Cosmos, and I'm just going to pack that right there, and that will give like a hint of blue to the eye look rather than just being purple. Can you see the difference? It's a very subtle difference, but very pretty one, just like that. Now I'm going to take my NYX Glitter Glow, because I generally use that with every like multi-chrome, duochrome shimmer. I'm going to take that on the center of my eyelid, actually all over my eyelid, but you absolutely need like a very tiny little bit. I'm not concentrating it or anything like that, just want like a tiny tacky base. Now for the lid shade, I'm going to dip into my Cool Summer palette from It's Well Cosmetics, and I'm going to take the shade Blueberry Pop. Oh my god, I love this shade, love this shade. You absolutely need a tiny little bit. Can you see that? Can you see that? And if you put this all over your eyelid, I mean, you will clearly see that shift happening from that purple to a blue. It's superb. So I'm going to mainly concentrate that all over my eyelid, but I'm going to leave a tiny little bit of space in the inner corner open. Can you see that? So pretty. With nothing on it, I'm just taking my blending brush and just blending the edges, just like that. Now for my inner third, I'm going to dip into the shade which is Social Butterfly from Luxie, and just concentrate that right there, and then just melt it with that blue shade, just like that. And for the inner corner, I'm going to take the same shade, Social Butterfly, and just apply that right in the inner corners. Just like that. How pretty that is. How pretty. Now I'm going to finish off this eye with some liner and mascara, and I'll get right back. Okay, so this is my first eye look. Now let's move on to the second eye look. I cannot wait. Okay, so for the second eye look, I'm first going to dip into this shade, which is Camouflage from the palette, the green shade. I know. I'm going to first tap it, make the shape of the eye that I really want, and then start blending. Just like that. And to blend off the edges, I'm going to dip back into my Pumpkin Spice from the Latte palette and just go over the edges of this green shade. I'm also going to concentrate that on my inner corners. Okay, now I'm going to dip into my Norvina 5 palette from ABH, and I'm going to take this shade C5 to deepen up my outer corners and B5 for the lower lash line. C5, just a tiny little bit to deepen out. And then I'm going to take that B5 shade for my lower lash line. Before the lid shade, let's apply our NYX glitter glue because why not? And can you guess what shade I'm gonna put on my lid? No points for guessing. It is gonna be the MILF shade from the Sugar Drizzle palette. I love that shade. Like, even though I'm not like a big green person, but that green to blue flip on that shade is something else. So I'm gonna take that. Oh, look at that, look at that. I'm gonna take that and apply that right there on the center of my eyelid. Almost all over my eyelid, I would say. Again, I'm gonna leave a tiny little bit on the inner corner space blank, but I'm gonna cover the entire eyelid with that shade because yes, we need to focus on that. Look at that, so pretty. And now for my inner third, I'm gonna dip into this shade, which is Radiance from my Ethereal palette, and then just apply that right here. Can you see that? So pretty it is, and it takes over that green shade when you apply it on like a green, and it mixes so beautifully with the shade, just like that. But when you tilt your head, you can definitely see that pink. Such a pretty shade. I'm also going to take the same shade on my inner corners, just like that. Now let me finish off this eye with some liner and mascara, and I'll get right back. And that's my second eye look. I really love both the eye looks that I've created for you guys. I really love this color story, and look how much you can do with this. Like I really love it. Like I definitely cannot be more excited. I really hope that you guys enjoyed both the looks that I created for you guys. And if you did like this video, do let me know in the comment section below what are like your go-to for fall season. Do let me know. I'm super curious. But yes, if you did like this video, you know what to do. Do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so that you're notified every time that I post next. I generally upload 3 videos every single week, every Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays at 9 AM Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.